How's it going today, everybody? It's your old buddy Eddie, the in-house tech at Kahler International, and today we are going to do the install video on the Auto-Latch. This install video will be for both the Spyder and the Steeler. Whether you've got a Steeler Professional or traditional, it's the same exact thing. However, it's a little different on the Spyder. We won't be doing one on the Killer because we no longer make that, but eventually one day I'll probably do one on the Killer too. Let me tell you how this video is going to work. It will be in 3 parts. Part number 1, I explain the 3 components that are the same for both the Spyder and the Steeler. Then in the next part of the video, we will go over the Spyder and how to install the Auto-Latch with it. And then in the next part of the video, we'll do the same for the Steeler. Let's get started with the first part. If you bought a brand new bridge and it already has the Auto-Latch arm receiver in it, that's great. You're ahead of the game. However, we are going to do this assuming that you bought the kit and you're going to swap it out. I'm going to use a Spyder to illustrate this, but it works the same with the Steeler. The very first thing you need to do is remove the arm module. You do that with a 3/32 wrench. It's that simple, just comes right off. Now the next thing that we're going to have here is the new arm module that goes on. These come with a clip and there's a good reason for it. If this doesn't have pressure on it, it could spring apart. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it springs apart so that you don't ever do it. So I already lost a piece of Teflon. There should be a second one in there. It went over there across the room somewhere. That's okay. I have more, and I'll find that one later. Here's what the arm module is comprised of. It's pretty simple, but it is elegant in its own simplicity. First, we have the module itself. Then, these 2 little pieces of Teflon go in here, backed up by these springs, and then finally, these threaded studs that go in. What this will do is turn this piece right here with the special arm that you get. Let's take a look at the special arm. So there's the special arm in all of its glory, and the thing that makes it unique is the paddle right here. Now, just like a key, this works on the flat. I'm going to show you exactly how with the arm module right now. So if we just take these 2 pieces right here and we don't worry about any of the springs or anything like that, we just fit this in right here, you can see that this will move back and forth. There's a little keyway right here. If you look really close, you can see that flat and that round right there coming up together. If I put this piece in and we look closely, you can see that anytime that it's not on the flat, this part's pushed out. The second that it's on the flat, it goes right there like that. That's when the bar is pointed at the 6 o'clock position. They're engineered to where they always lock in the same position. With all that being said, let's show you how the arm module goes back together. First and foremost, we want to put this piece in. Once we do that, we put these little Teflon pieces in. I find that it's much easier to take this included clip, put that on there so that it just won't move. Now that I've got everything ready, I'm going to take this 5/64 wrench and I'm just going to load one of these studs on here and just have it ready and sitting there. Because I have my Teflon piece right there, I'm going to push it down with this spring and it almost goes all the way in. This is why I have this preloaded. Now I've got a little bit of tension and I'm just going to put that in just a little. We can see right there that it's forcing that piece of Teflon down. This is all set to go. Now, if you want your bar to have a stiffer feel, you just tighten these up right here. The tighter you make this will make it to where it just won't drop right into the auto latch locked position. And it's really a feel thing. It's up to you how much you want it or don't want it. Personally, I like there to be a little resistance so that you don't accidentally knock the thing down there. But, you know, it goes pretty easy. And there it is. That's the arm module. Now, what we're going to do is put it on this Spyder that we took the regular arm module off of. Hold this very, very tightly. Get it over here. Okay, now we're good. As long as we get one of these in here. Okay, now we can breathe a little easier. It's not going to move. And there we have it. Now we have the auto latch installed in here. Now it's important to note that this part so far is the same for both the Steeler and the Spyder. Now we've gotten to the point where we're getting the bar to where it is activating it. Right there with the bar at the 6 o'clock position, this is in the locked position. The minute that we move this bar, those little pieces of Teflon will start to disappear. Okay, much, much shorter. I can go all the way around and it's still where it is, and you saw where it started to drop, right? This little area right here, that's where it's locked. So that's the arm module, and we showed you the arm. Here's the last universal component. It's the indexer. The indexer is extremely important. There are a couple things about it that you need to know, but not a whole heck of a lot. It's a pretty simple device. So first off, this lever right here, when you pop that up, that's actually what lets this slide and index. I'll show you how this works a little bit later when we put it in. Don't worry. On either side in the back, and then right here, and offset a little bit, are the screw holes that put the indexer secured in the trem cavity of your guitar. And then the last part is really cool and very crucial, and it's this little screw right here. There's only one on this one side. You adjust it with a 50 thousandths SAE Allen wrench. As I start to turn this thing, watch what happens here. This is so that you can adjust this thing to where it will not hit against the block at all. Now the block is where everything changes between the Steeler and the Spyder, and yes, even the Killer. The Killer and the Spyder, pretty much same. The Steeler and the Spyder, very different. So we're going to cut away to the Spyder now. It's going to be already together, fully assembled, and I'll show you how to install the indexer and dial it in. Well, it's time to do this install on this PV tracer that has a Spyder already in it. Now we are assuming that you have a Spyder that is already properly set up, intonated, in tune, all that kind of stuff. The very first thing you will notice is that this bar is pointing back away from the body of the guitar. And that's because in order to install this thing, we have to set it down like this. And when we do that, we want that bar completely and totally out of our way. You're going to have to set this up on something. I'm going to use these bench cookies. Okay, so we're sitting pretty good here. You can see this is where we need our indexer to go. It's already been kind of pre-fitted. And what we're going to do is just kind of set this in here. We want for this to be able to go there very easily, but we want to have some room to move. So I'm going to stick that way forward, and now what we're going to do is just kind of give it a little poke with some screws, drive them in here, and just get it going. Now I don't want to drive this all the way in, because it'll start to get all lopsided and wonky. I'm going to back this one off just a touch. Right, now we can tighten it down. But we'll start to pick it up in the front here. We don't want to do that either. Now, here's the thing to note, is that we want that to sit right about there, but we also want to make sure that it's not touching. You see how that's touching? So let's get it just so. Now we take that 50 thousandths, put it in here. Once we get it to this point, what we're going to want to do, have it in the playing position, and let's just, with the lever up here, let's lock that bar. Okay, so that has put us to where it's locked us in. Now we'll lock that in, and we'll unlock it. Alright, so we're rubbing against something. Well, there we have it. It's not rubbing against anything. We just use that little screw there. Now that we've got it all set up and everything, here's the test. Just take the most simple, the G cord. Now this is with the auto latch engaged. Now if you really push, you can make it move. But you're not going to really hammer on this. You're not going to beat on it like Doyle, Wolfgang von Frankenstein, you know? That's engaged. There it is, disengaged. Engaged, disengaged. So, as you can see, setup, not too terribly difficult. The one thing is that every time you retune the strings, you have to reset the indexer. You have to. Think of it as tuning one extra string. You get everything all tuned up with the bar floating, then you lock it in place and make sure it's still in tune, and then you just put it down and make sure that it's in tune, both floating and locked. That's all there is to it. Let's move on to the Steeler. Well, just like the Spyder, we're going to start out the Steeler one with putting the ARM module onto the Steeler itself. This is a Steeler Traditional, but it works exactly the same with the Professional. This is a solid 360 half-hard brass block. We'll take our module, which has been clipped for our safety and non-flinging of Teflon parts. That might have given you a little bit of a little more urgency with the Spyder, but it's really not like you have to cling tenaciously for life to the thing. Get one of these set up and in, once again, using a 3/32. So now we'll take our arm, we'll put it in, we'll just test to make sure that it works. Sometimes you've got to break through these things a little bit. It might feel like there's a little bit of resistance. That's just because it hasn't been properly seated yet. But as we can see, it's functioning just fine. So let's put an auto latch in a guitar with the Steeler. Once again, the guitar already has the bar on it. It's all intonated, everything's good. We're just going to put the indexer in, set it, and then we're done. Now, one thing to pay very close attention to with this guitar is, first off, there are a couple places that I trimmed out a little bit further so that this auto latch would actually fit. And this is something that you might have to do. In addition, you'll notice there are some holes here because, spoiler alert, there was already an auto latch in this guitar, but we're doing a thing here, right? One other thing that might be a little hard to see is that this is a sloping cavity. So we're going to have to bring the ass end of this thing up just a little bit. And I'm going to do that by stacking a couple washers. I'm thinking maybe 2 washers should give us just enough height. So there are my 2 washers on each, but I need to keep them on here. The way I'm going to do that is with some of this very, very easy to get off orange tape. Now I've got those 2 screws started, I can see about getting rid of this orange tape. It's very important that this indexer is right there to where that triangle is exactly there. Now, first what we're going to do is just make sure that it's not rubbing on anything. And it's not. But let's say that it wasn't working so good, just in case you didn't watch me do this with the Spyder. We would use a 50 thousandths Allen wrench right here. So we can hear that scraping. So now I'll just gently move it. And now it's not scraping at all. We'll just test the guitar for being in tune with a very simple G chord. It's in tune. So now the important thing once again is that that is open and that our V right here is exactly in the middle. This can be a little tricky at first. Okay, that's in tune. We're in the right place. So we lock that latch. And let's test it out. Other than the waver of when I'm moving the bar, there it is. And that's it. It's really simple. It's all about knowing those components. The arm module, and the indexer. How they work, how to adjust them. You just set this thing up, you should be good to go. So let's just close with this. Whether you pick the Spyder or the Steeler, whichever version of the Steeler, even the one that we made back in the late 80s, early 90s, and those Spyders for that matter, and once again, the infamous killer, the auto latch really works great. Now it takes a little bit of time to get used to. It's sort of like making the transition from 4 to 5 string bass or 6 to 7 string guitar. But just be patient, take your time, and it'll all work out for you pretty easy. Now there's a lot more information that comes printed out that gets pretty detailed that will come with either your auto latch equipped bridge or the auto latch conversion kit. Just take your time, watch this video as many times as you have to, refer to the written instructions, and you should be just fine. So that's it. Until next time, this has been Eddie Kernan for Kahler International.